And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go again here, folks, and it is a great day because we've had craziness that's happened this week on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your day live in Denver, Colorado. Lots of moves. Obviously, the big fish of them all, Myles Garrett, officially a Ram. Got his jersey, is with Les Snead and Sean McVay. You could see the excitement and the smiles on everybody's faces in Los Angeles. It's a good day today. Stanley Cup Final was amazing. And the NBA Finals tonight, Spurs and Knicks. It's going to be a lot of fun here in tonight's show. And we've got former Major League pitcher Jerome Williams joining us here on the program discussing Major League Baseball. So let's start with what we witnessed last night. So I'll get to all of the rest of the NFL as we get into the meat of the show here, guys. So I appreciate everybody for joining on in and coming in and hanging out with us. So last night in the Stanley Cup Final, I don't know about you guys, but it should make me more excited about the NBA Finals tonight because last night was theatrical. It was outstanding. Everybody got exactly with what they wanted. Raleigh, North Carolina, by the way, where the home of the Carolina Hurricanes are in Lenovo Arena, they were packing. Like that whole barn was a madhouse. And you know what? When you've got Scorpion going off into the music and playing Rock You Like a Hurricane, you know you're going to be in for it. You're going to be in for an entertaining one. So the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes gave us such an exciting Game 1 matchup where it was physical, it was back and forth, and by the way, like it was arguably, if you did not enjoy this, then I don't know. Because to me, I thought that was the most entertaining start of a final that I've seen in quite a while. So honestly, the Vegas Golden Knights, and this is what people also have to understand, is this was a physical, in-your-face type game, and I thought both offenses were excellent. Defensively, both of them gave it to each other, and as far as the goaltending goes between Carter Hart and Frederik Andersen, they both were outstanding. They were phenomenal. So, but the difference is who was going to last the longest. I thought the game was going to end up going into overtime, but it started out with 2 breakaway goals from Nikolai Ehlers and having 2 goals up and onto his belt. But that defense, I mean, you could see up and onto the bench where John Tortorella was losing his mind, and he knows it, you know, and it was no secret at all that John Tortorella, you could see up and onto the bench, he was pissed off, needed execution, but the good thing of it is he did not completely lose his marbles, and what he did is that he motivated his team to be patient, take a step back, and defend. That's what you needed to do. So when the Golden Knights had the golden opportunity, they ended up scoring 3 unanswered goals, made it a 3-2 game. And then all the way up to the point where it was back and forth between goals where they tied it up. And it was outstanding. And then it came the last goal of the night. And that belonged to Tomas Hertl. And that game there is why we love the playoffs. And it's also the reason why that you cannot, there's no comparison here from what we've been watching all throughout this whole entire playoff run. There's no comparison. This NHL playoffs has been fantastic, and at the same time, it's been action-packed. And it's like, you know, you think about what you're going to preview, right? And sometimes I compare this to a movie I'm going to watch because at the end of the day, I'm a consumer, and I'm somebody that wants to be entertained. And so when you've got both these teams who are very much evenly matched, you know what you're going to get. And so last night was so theatrical. Here was the game-winning goal, that literally just not only shocked everybody, but it had everybody going nuts and crazy. Here it was.
Into the dot that says it's back for Hurdle. He scores! Tomas Hurdle! Then it's 5-4 Vegas with 3:24 to go. This is the fourth.
So the one thing you can admit about the Vegas Golden Knights and for John Tortorella is that they are relentless. And it says it on their collars, always advance, never retreat. That's who they are. And since he's been there, it's a completely different identity. They're ruthless. They're in your face. They are not afraid to get physical. They just know how to do things better than others. That's why everybody feels salty the way that they do about how they run their business. But I mean, how do you think everybody feels about the Rams going and getting Myles Garrett? It's just how they do business. So get over it, get better. And I thought for as action-packed of a game one that this was, I'm excited for the rest of the series. So Vegas takes game one. I truthfully feel good about it as a Vegas native. And yeah, this team is just relentless. So the NBA Finals is tonight. Game one, Spurs and Knicks. So if you were not as entertained in the Stanley Cup Final, which I hope you were, you can only imagine how entertained you will be of tonight's game between the Spurs and Knicks. And we're in San Antonio tonight, and the Spurs back into the finals once again since Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, and Tony Parker and Greg Popovich. Now it's different. Now you've got the young kid Mitchell running the show, Victor Wembanyama in a big stage. I mean, we've been watching a lot of international stars come into the finals, and they've been giving us a performance. Like you watch Luka Doncic with the Dallas Mavericks before he became a Laker. You watch Giannis over there in the Bucks, and so many other really good players, even Nikola Jokic for Denver. So now it's Victor Wembanyama in this series, and he has truthfully become so dominant that when we talk about faces of the league, we know people feel a certain kind of way when it comes to that conversation. And with Victor, like, yes, we know he's not from the States. Okay, he's an international player, but he's dominant in every single way. Defensively, with the size and length that he has, you can't compare it. Neither can you stop it. It's relentless. But we know the Knicks have an attitude. They've got an attitude about them. That's why I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But what you're going to see tonight is you're going to see a defensive Spurs team taking on a physical, athletic, and then at the same time, pretty much a very even-keeled, offensively driven Knicks team. But it's all going to come down to possessions, time, and your spots of where you're shooting at. So that's what it's going to come down to. So that means Dylan Harper, Harrison Barnes, Stephon Castle, and De'Aaron Fox are all going to need to be contributors here. So that's going to be the whole entire story of the series. And that's the same way that you could look at for the Knicks with Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby and Landry Shamet. Like, there's going to be a lot of key contributors who are going to want to really connect and contribute. So that's the name of the game, and especially in this finals. And we know that Adam Silver doesn't really like dynasties, but this should be a fun finals because you've got one big market in New York, and you've also got that team out of Texas in San Antonio, who they're no strangers in these type of finals. I mean, Tim Duncan was dominant with as far as a defensive team goes, and you got to think, David Robinson to Tim Duncan to Victor Wembanyama. And the Spurs got to feel so good about themselves. To be in this position, to opening up home court in the finals, And what I love about it too is that we're finally going to get the nostalgia tonight, because now you're finally going to see the Larry O'Brien trophy up and in the middle of the center court. So tonight, if you were not entertained by the Stanley Cup Final yesterday, you should be entertained by the NBA Finals Game 1 tonight. This is going to be a fun one. I mean, honestly, I think I'd be probably taking the Spurs tonight with Game 1 and how pressurizing it may be, because the Knicks, this has been years since they've last been in it. And for the Spurs, it's not too long ago that they were up and into the finals, so they understand what it takes to be here. They have a very smart front office. They do have is a necessary change. So lots of moving parts, but the Spurs still feel like the team that is ready to roll. So yeah, we're all about it here today. We're going to discuss the A.J. Brown trade to the Patriots. It's official. He's now finally in New England. I'll give my 2 cents thoughts up and on that. Aaron Donald potentially teaming up with Myles Garrett and the Rams. What does that mean for the NFL, and what does that do for the LA Rams? That'll be coming up next. And then not to mention a new GM in town in Nashville for the Predators. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of rumors here. In Denver, some like it, some understand it. We'll get the mixture up and in both here on the back half of the show as well. So, folks, first and foremost, we appreciate all of you guys for all of your loving support up and out of the show. And here's the thing, 2026, and we're in the summer of 2026. And we know in the first couple of months, there's probably been new challenges. There's probably been new endeavors. There's been new challenge. There's been new everything starting up in the year of 2026. But what isn't new, and that's been going around for quite a while, is the fact that the number one leading cause of death in the United States, lung cancer, is linked to many of these substances here, and especially these addictive substances. Cigarettes, tobacco, chewing tobacco itself, and vaping. In fact, Colorado passed a law where they are outlawing vaping now, to especially with teenagers who can easily get their hands on this stuff. And it's making it a better world. And so for those who have a hard time dealing with the addiction of nicotine, because we know nicotine kicks are no fun, there's a company in California named Slapple who have made, like many other companies all around, a longer lasting, flavorful nicotine gum. Comes in a 40-pack tub where you take it, longer lasting all day, to slap your cravings all throughout the day. It's a great alternative. Be a part of the movement and make this more of a smokeless world. Because honestly, I very much love to smell the fresh air, smell the roses, without even having to deal with a lot of that smoke congestion. Join the movement and slap your cravings today with Slapple. Very flavorful, delicious flavors. Comes in 6 different flavors. Choose it of your favorite kind. Link it in the description. Slap your cravings today with Slapple.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing deal of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
So, of course, the Myles Garrett trade had everybody flipping tables, maybe even flipping pianos, like our good friend Morgan Wallen up out there. Yeah, a lot of technical difficulties. Yeah, it was a mess. But it had everybody running wild. The Niners weren't really feeling too great about it, and, and so many other teams. So, A.J. Brown, this has been months that they've been talking about this segment for quite a while, where the Patriots and the Eagles end up making the trade. They do the business. They were in serious talks, and now Mike Vrabel will be reunited with his former receiver from Tennessee, A.J. Brown. It's official, and the New England Patriots, they get a first-round pick out of it. So here's the big thing. We know the Eagles are known to do business, right? And people would think, oh man, if we know that the Eagles and Howie Roseman would make deals like when they first got A.J. Brown, we look at them as geniuses. But after they went to a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl, the entire Philadelphia Eagles, like just the entire environment in Philadelphia was just crazy nuts. And a lot of it had to deal with stuff that's going on in the locker room, stuff that's happening up and onto the field, especially with play calling and especially with executions. Many people were so outraged by the way in which the Eagles teams were playing. But we understand one thing is that they've had different OC changes. That has been a factor. The other factor has also been that Jalen Hurts, in multiple scenarios, hasn't been able to throw the ball that often, okay? And many a times of that, I think, was just more of the Eagles basically saying, Jalen, we're not expecting you to throw for more than 35 times in a game. Like they're not expecting that. So to me, it made sense that A.J. Brown, and no matter how many times he had been, voicing out about it, how many times he's gotten vocal about what the scenario in Philadelphia, he's now a New England Patriot. Now, for the Patriots in this position, they gave up draft capital, but at the same time, they've got a number one receiver, and I know many people have had their thoughts about this because Drake May in the playoffs last year was not the best statistical quarterback. He just wasn't. But that didn't stop him from getting a Super Bowl appearance because a lot of that was more of Mike Vrabel having confidence in his guys, confidence in his defense, confidence in the run game, confidence in his quarterback. That's all it took. And so when you have a wide receiver room like Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas, and Kendrick Bourne, and multiple others, you probably would feel the same exact way of we need to upgrade our wide receiver room. It just looks thin. And Kayshon Boutte's a good player, but to be honest, you need to have somebody that's a little bit more dynamic that can set the tone. So how this is going to work, we're not sure yet. But my one big thing about A.J. Brown is that he is dynamic. He's a really good receiver for the outsides, over the shoulders, and honestly could set the tone of an offense at any point. I mean, you got to think. He set the tone up in an offense with a Ryan Tannehill quarterback, then setting the tone of the offense with a Jalen Hurts offensive quarterback. But what did the two teams have up in common? They had a run game with Derrick Henry and with Saquon Barkley. So there was a lot of consistency and confidence in the offense. But we know A.J. Brown at times gets vocal because he's not getting the targets. Well, Jalen Hurts' job is that he's not there to overly throw the ball. We all know that to be true because it's mostly, and I've said this several different times, is Jalen Hurts plays like a point guard at quarterback because he's not there to constantly throw the ball deep every time because he can do it, but he's not required and it's not necessary where he has to do it constantly. And also, he also utilizes his legs a lot, and then not to mention the infamous tush push. So A.J. Brown understands, like, he's been a part of two different offenses that were more predicated to the run game and not having a quarterback like Drake May. So regardless of how people think about Drake May and statistically how his performance was in the playoffs, doesn't matter. Because in the end, I'm not saying this Patriots team is going to be that dynamic right off the bat. And to me, I look at it this way where I think the Patriots are better than what they were last year as far as offense goes. They did draft Caleb Lamu. They went and got themselves a left tackle that can extend the arms because that was the problem with Will Campbell. That's why honestly he would be better off as an interior offensive lineman, being at least a guard, because he's got the size, he's got the push in order for him to repel off pressures. And then not to mention have a clean pocket for someone like Drake May to have time and distribute his throws. Maybe even two, where Drake May could be running the ball. So this Patriots offense is going to look better. And I'm not saying it's going to be overly dynamic than what Philadelphia was, because Philadelphia would, let's be honest, with Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert and multiple other really good weapons that were all around in Jalen Hurts' in his disposal, like that Eagles offense was really dynamic and physical, and they really were winning a lot of the trench games. So to me, I can only imagine what Mike Vrabel had now reuniting with his former receiver, and they love running the ball. Ramondre Stevenson, Trayvon Henderson, like this is a really good Patriots offense today. What does that now equate to? I don't know if they will honestly make a run like they did last year getting to the Super Bowl. We'll have to wait and see. But I do know this is going to be a playoff team for sure, but it may come with certain drop-offs because defensively kind of would look a little different. Who knows as far as the connection on offense in the first 5-6 weeks, how this is going to work. But I think we all understand one thing is that Mike Vrabel does understand A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown understands Mike Vrabel. And this has happened regardless of the articles that were surrounding Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini. Like this now is official. And the Patriots got A.J. Brown. Now, the only question now becomes Brandon Ayuk and a couple of others. What does that now do for them? But to me, I think the Niners should honestly get out of the Brandon Ayuk business because now there's reports about him being arrested or or now having an arrest warrant. So this is already becoming problems. I would have gotten out of this business the minute that he ended up sitting out for a month and, he gets his money, he gets paid. And now what are the Niners going to honestly do? Like, yeah, you've got a Mike Evans, but he's older as he gets, he's accumulating injuries. It just happens. But Jawan Jennings no longer in the building. Now you got to trust Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and then that receiver that they got in the second round, which I'm not even sure of either. So there are many businesses do different businesses all the time. Not every business is the same. And so when you look at how the Rams do business, they're aggressive. They go all in. The Patriots know they need a number one receiver. They go get one. And there are still free agents out and around in the free agent market, but only by a bargaining price. So I think the Patriots better today than what they were last year, but we'll see what that translates all throughout the regular season. Time now for the news.
And now,
Here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
All right, so some news up into the Hot Press, and one that we're going to be discussing here in a bit is it's official that quarterback Russell Wilson, who ended up taking an analyst job at CBS, is now officially retiring from the NFL after 14 seasons. So everybody was wondering what was going to happen with Russell Wilson because he has had such a drastic turn of the tables since having the success in Seattle. So the 37-year-old 10-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, and the Walter Payton Man of the Year, who had thrown for over 46,000 passing yards, 353 passing touchdowns, and 114 interceptions during a 14-year career, included 10 seasons with the Seahawks, 2 with the Denver Broncos, 1 with the Steelers, and last season with the New York Giants, who now are turning to Jackson Dart. His passing yardage is 5th most in the NFL since 2012. When he was selected in the 3rd round of the 2012 draft out of Wisconsin with the Seahawks, only trailing Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Matt Ryan. Passing touchdowns only trails Rodgers and Stafford during the time span, and Russell Wilson, who holds the Seahawks franchise records for passing yards and touchdown passes, between 37,000 passing yards and 174 passing touchdowns. So it's official. Russell Wilson is hanging up the cleats. And listen, I think the way in which that sometimes in life, and depending on situations that you're in, oftentimes influences you to just honestly just hang the cleats up. And that's what Russell Wilson is doing, and he's got a better game as an analyst. Go ask J.J. Watt. Go ask Matt Ryan. Go ask a lot of these former pros how good it's feeling to be an analyst in one of these major networks, because a lot of them, like, they don't mind it at all. And Russell, who honestly, as many people really have their own thoughts about him, is smart. So when it comes to football breakdowns, he's gonna figure it out. So, and to me, I think it's a really, really good fit in CBS. We'll talk a little bit more about it here in just a bit. So after the crazy trade between the LA Rams and the Cleveland Browns that sent Myles Garrett to LA, and then in the middle of it, a 1st, 2nd, and a 3rd, and Jared Verse to the Cleveland Browns. He had then ended up having his interview and discussion about being up and in Cleveland and what it means, really, like filling in the shoes of Myles Garrett. So here's what Jared Verse ended up saying today in his first practice with the Browns. I am not here to fill, i.e. Garrett's shoes. I'm here to bring my own. I'm here to work, and I'm here to be the best version of me. And the best version of me is going to be the best defensive player in the league, and the best defensive player in the league is going to play for the best defense in the league. So Jared Verse is a great-minded kid. And honestly, when you think about it with the Cleveland Browns, like they are reshaping themselves really well. And I personally think this is going to be a really good, bright future for the Cleveland Browns, because you're looking all around in the AFC North, because the Steelers, they re-signed Nate Herbig. Then you still got TJ Watt. You ended up re-signing Alex Highsmith. Like, they just love their defense. But does that honestly end up including trade? Because the Steelers, and I mean, this is the only team right now that I look at, and with TJ Watt is the only person up and in there next to Trey Hendrickson in Baltimore. So I personally am waiting up and on Pittsburgh for what the decision is going to come to, because you just watched Cleveland get rid of their star player in Myles Garrett. You watch the Cincinnati Bengals move on from Trey Hendrickson, and look at what it's done for the two of them. Cincinnati goes and gets Dexter Lawrence. They go and get a bunch of other really good off-season moves on defense, who I think can be very impactful. And then they go and get some pretty good draft picks themselves. They go and get another edge rusher because with Shamar Stewart, it's go time. They got to kick it into gear. So, and then you got the Cleveland Browns, who goes and gets Jared Verse. They got Carson Schlesinger. They got Mason Graham. They got a bunch of really good players up and on defense, and even still with Denzel Ward. So why would people think Cleveland really can't be that revamping team that they're accumulating talent, they're getting younger, and I think it's what's going to be shaking up the AFC North for quite a while. So I like this, and I think with this move in particular, Jared Verse, by the way, he's on a rookie contract still, so he's going to be awaiting to get paid. But I think this defense definitely got better as far as in long-term build. So this is what's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think truthfully Cleveland is going to do just fine. I know many Pittsburgh fans honestly look at the Browns and feel like, man, the Browns will still continue to do Browns things. I'm like, okay. Meanwhile, I'm looking at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's doing Pittsburgh things. Punching their ticket into the playoffs and being first-round exits. Not even getting deeper up and into the playoffs. So this should be an interesting and an exciting season all the way through. All right. There was your news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
So the Myles Garrett trade to the LA Rams influenced, of course, a former Ram, and that was Aaron Donald. So a lot of people have been just tweeting this out. They have all been tuned in to what could be potentially happening because Jordan Schultz, Pat McAfee on his show ended up texting Aaron Donald, and all of a sudden, like, he's motivated. He's like, I'm flirting with the idea. It's got me thinking. You know, you got to think about it, right? As older you get, especially when you're in a business, right? You want to be, honestly, you don't want to come in dragging because your job, honestly, is just, it's not really like what you hoped it to be, right? It doesn't motivate you. It doesn't get, because I am the kind that, do I love going to work? Not always. But is it something that helps to provide for my family? Does it give me stability and consistency? Absolutely it does. But sometimes too, businesses, when you try to keep consistency and quality over quantity, you just got to kind of go to the root. And so with the LA Rams, I mean, this was already a really good team from the beginning. Everybody knew that. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. And by the way, with Myles Garrett now you've got him with Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Poona Ford, who was arguably one of the best run stoppers up front. And now you're going to be thinking about Aaron Donald, a potential reunion. Imagine that. Like, this would be like Thanos' like his snap going off. It would be over for the league. And that's the stuff that I think we all just truthfully live for. Because I'm like, wow, I did not think this was honestly going to be true. But this is also some good points because I had listened to a bunch of people early up and into the morning, as I usually do, because I mean, as a guy who has a journalist mind, you got to get your scoops. You got to get your resources. So that's why we get them all here for the show. So the Rams talked to each other in March, and all it came with is that Myles Garrett, they were going to work up and on his contract. This was Cleveland, and where they were going to back half the contract. And once they did that, the Rams were instantly interested. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself. Why didn't the Philadelphia Eagles get aggressive as they did? Well, they did. The only problem with the Eagles is that in the middle of that trade, even when they were throwing in Jared Verse, the Rams wanted Jalen Carter in the middle of it, and the Eagles said, no thanks. Nope, we're not trading our star defensive tackle because now we won't even be the same defense. And that was a problem. They were willing to give up the picks, but not Jalen Carter. I mean, you paid Jordan Davis. If you let Jalen Carter go, that's going to be a completely different defensive unit up front. And on top of, you already moved on from Jalen Phillips, and you moved on from a couple of other pieces just so Jahad Campbell can strike. And then at the same time, you go get Jonathan Grenard. They got an edge rusher. So I think it was just smart for Philadelphia not to even make that move because of the way Jalen Carter, you know how big of a piece that he is up on defense. So it made sense. But there were many teams that were interested, that were knocking up and on the door. But the Rams, who do a lot of smart businesses, understand that like they were trying to sway sort of in a position to where they're heavily interested. They got all the numbers right there up and in front of them. A first, second, third round pick and Jared Verse. You could ship him up off to Cleveland because Cleveland is not paying Jared Verse right now. And then they got themselves a really good player in front of Carson Schlesinger, Mason Graham, multiple other really good defensive players. They're not paying him anything. So he's still under the rookie contract and he's a premier player. So that actually worked out perfectly. Will it be the same defense? No, because once you get rid of a perennial player like that in Myles Garrett, of course it's going to be different. But we know Myles is getting up in age. And if you're going to do this, this is how we felt about Matt Stafford back then in Detroit. Like Matthew Stafford was not getting any younger. He was accumulating so many other injuries. And Detroit wanted to do him a favor. He's a really good quarterback. Comes in LA, and Sean McVay transformed a lot. And they go and win a Super Bowl. And so now they're in this position with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and Kyron Williams and, Terrence Ferguson and Tyler Higbee and Myles Garrett. The list goes on. And they just added Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie. The Rams know how to do business, much like the Dodgers know how to do business. The Lakers themselves with new ownerships know how to do business. But that's the thing. This is how it works. I know many people get envious, sometimes get kind of they get jealous, and they kind of feel resentful of other people's successes. Don't hate the person's, don't hate the person, don't hate the company, don't hate the corporate. Be mad at the fact that they are more successful than where you're sitting at right now. How do you want to be successful? You got to make a change. How do you want to be successfully athletically fit? Change your dietary. Change your habits. Maybe drink more water, especially when you're in the heat of the summer. How do you want to change your work environment? Well, maybe establish a new culture. Establish a new mindset. Work on your quality that will bring you the quantity. And at the same time, equity is much more necessary than equality. If anybody knows what that means in business, good for you. Because you should understand that. Because equity is trying to work to everybody's strengths. Because not everyone is going to be equal. So that's where it starts with. And the Dodgers, the Lakers, and the Rams, they all know how to do business. And that's just what they live for. So, again, people just get very resentful and envious of somebody else's successes. Meanwhile, they're sitting there up and onto the couch and they're kind of crying wolf a bit and saying oh, I don't like where I am. Then do something about it. Don't just sit around, cry wolf and bury your head in the sand and feel like it's never going to get better. Get motivated. And that's the thing. Is the Rams, with Aaron Donald maybe potentially coming in with a comeback, he's motivated. Because at the same time, You got to think Tom Brady was not motivated by the time that they went 8-9 in the Bucs after they just won a Super Bowl. He was not motivated. He was like, nope, done. There's no reason for me to be here. And then at the same time, Aaron Donald, who won a Super Bowl, saw exactly the change in the Rams and was like, I'm not really motivated. This pushes motivation. And Aaron Donald, if you actually looked at all of his social media accounts, like he's working out. He's not over there sipping umbrella drinks. And sure, it'd be nice, especially when you're up and in retirement, but he's constantly working out. He's a gym rat. He's a guy that constantly is working out. Great shape, great personality, really takes care of his family. This is just what the Rams do. Les Snead and Sean McVay. I mean, I know everybody wants to feel like it's a pissing contest between them and San Francisco with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, but at the end of the day, nobody does business better than what Los Angeles does, no matter how much you don't like some of the things in California. I understand. I mean, I may not like them, but I respect in which that a team like the Rams, when they do business better. I don't hate in these, and I really do not hate in the success plan they put together. I don't. There's no reason for me to. So coming up next, here before we go up and on break. So Russell Wilson, after 14 years, has officially decided to hang up the cleats. This is a good thing for Russell Wilson because I have never seen a football player literally have a complete table turnaround like 360 the way in which Russell Wilson has. He spent 10 years in Seattle building a dominant, very ferocious Seattle team along with Pete Carroll, who, by the way, with Pete's sharpness at the time, knew how to run the football well, was also a defensive-minded coach, and was also a great, really good recruiter. I mean, people forget about that up in USC. He recruited very well. Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer, the list itself goes on. And after the whole entire investigation with USC, Pete's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not dealing with this madness. I'm going to go to the pros. I'm going to go and get paid more. I mean, you see that a lot even for today. I mean, look at how Jim Harbaugh and the way that the NCAA and the Big Ten have treated Jim Harbaugh up in Michigan. I mean, yeah, you have the Connor Stallions story, but Jim's like, you know what? NFL's giving me more days off and I'm getting paid more. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go to the Chargers. So Russell Wilson has been to 2 Super Bowls, won one, and he's had a great defense around him with the Legion of Boom. Richard Sherman, Byron Maxwell, Cam Chancellor, and Earl Thomas. It's a great secondary group. And everybody wants to compare it between them and the no-fly zone of Denver. And we saw them both in a Super Bowl. And we all know what the turn of the page was there. But the fact of the matter is, Seattle is competitive. They've built themselves a great culture into where it's influenced to where now they have a hockey team. We may potentially see the Supersonics make a comeback. But the Mariners, I mean, they made it to the ALCS, but that's as far as they've gone. They're still trying to get into the World Series. But eventually they will, but who knows how much time it's going to take there. But Russell Wilson, and many people have had expressed thoughts about Russ. Because back then in Seattle, he came in as the 3rd rounder out of Wisconsin, took a job of a guy that they paid $10 million plus for in Matt Flynn, and he's automatically the starter in a rookie season because Matt Flynn wasn't caught in it. And Pete had immense amount of confidence in Russ. And long story short, you got guys like Golden Tate and Doug Baldwin and Jermaine Kearse and Marshawn Lynch and Chris Carson. Like the Seattle teams were always competitive with Russell Wilson. The defense was always competitive. Cliff Averill, Bruce Irvin, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright. And then where the twist and the turn came up was when Russell Wilson came here to Denver and pairing up with Nathaniel Hackett, which is what Bronco fans always want to put in the back burner because that was a horrible, horrible combination. Then Sean Payton arrives. And Sean, who, let's be honest, his business, he sometimes rubs people the wrong way with the way in which he comments, with the way he gives his expressed opinions, sometimes kind of tampers with a bunch of things too many times to where the NFL is like, whoa, slow down, bud. Easy. But that's who Sean Payton is. Everybody all saw what happened during the time in Detroit where he's over there screaming and yelling and embarrassing Russell Wilson up and on national television. I know many people felt a different way about it, but it is football. This is kind of how it is. But at the end of the day, Russell it wasn't working up and in Denver. And then you go up and into Pittsburgh and you're the starting quarterback after Justin Fields went 4-2 and they were on a heater. Like Calvin Austin was playing better. And even with a mediocre offense in what Pittsburgh was, they made it to the playoffs, but that was where the road ended. And then we all saw with what Russell really truthfully was. Small quarterback, mobile, has to scramble out to go and create space. And the fact that you can't even see over the offensive line, it was taking a toll for the worst. And then comes to New York, and it was a disaster. So does that, if you think about it in 14 years, 10 of them which dominant in Seattle, 2 Super Bowl appearances, winning 1, 10-time Pro Bowler, and had multiple times where he was kind of putting up MVP numbers. And then the whole term of let Russ cook. Just to go to 4 years, 2 of them in Denver, 1 in Pittsburgh, and then 1 in the Giants. Does that hinder Russ's career? I mean, it does leave a stain. It does to an extent, but everybody's all going to remember about how competitive the Seattle teams are. I mean, if you really think about it, right, we had the Dave Krieg and the Steve Largent years. We've had Matt Hasselbeck, Sean Alexander, Deion Branch, and TJ Houshmandzadeh. We had those years. Fast forward, you have Russell Wilson and the Pete Carroll and the Marshawn Lynch years to all the way down to where we now have the Sam Darnolds and the JSNs of the world. Fast forward and they get another Super Bowl. Think about it. And this is good for Russell because at the end of the day, he just doesn't quite look like and play like himself. And I get it. Look, you got too many things going on in life. I mean, it happens. Not everybody is honestly going to translate exactly the same, whether it's an injury, whether it's just a change in life scenarios. I mean, you've got Sierra. You got the most loving wife that you got, and it's doing really well. To me, I just think, with Russ, it was about time. And look, J.J. Watt, Matt Ryan, multiple people love working as an analyst. They pay better. I mean, that's why Tom Brady's up and into the announcer's booth at Fox. These former players don't mind, going and being analysts. I mean, I love Greg Olson being an analyst. I loved a lot of these guys that come up and in there because they express a lot of the football thought. And you know what? It was a better decision. No reason for him to continue to play. I mean, he's put everything in there for 14 years, which is the most interesting 14 years that we've seen out of a quarterback to just have the tables completely flipped around. I've never seen a kind of career like that in my life where 10 years of dominance and success having 4 years of just straight getting plundered. It's just interesting. It really, really is. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the new GM in Nashville for the Predators. And I know many Colorado fans feel a certain type of way about this move. So don't go anywhere. Snake Sports Talk Show.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Welcome back up and onto the show. Looks like we'll have a rain check with our guest here on our future show. Stanley Cup Final was theatrical last night. NBA Finals Game 1 tonight. Hope all of you were very entertained and continue to be entertained in the next couple of days as the finals are just outstanding. So there's a new sheriff in town in Nashville as part of the general managing and the hockey operations. And that is going to be Chris McFarland, the former GM of the Colorado Avalanche, who is leaving to go and take a team that right now had addressed many pieces, but nothing has truthfully come together in fruition. And this is a competitive team, truthfully, because Jonathan Marchessault, Steven Stamkos, Brady Shea, like this team should have been better than what they were. But let's throw out a few pointers up from into here because to me, like this Predators team had multiple different coaches until like they came to a point where nothing was really working well. I mean, they made it into the Stanley Cup Final back in 2017, losing to Pittsburgh. But then since then, they were not really looking like the most intimidating team that we're so used to seeing. Smashville. So Chris McFarland's coming in to clean the mess. And I know many people feel a certain type of way because of the result that happened here in Colorado where they got swept by the Vegas Golden Knights, and that was not on anybody's bingo card. I mean, it just happens. I mean, Cale Makar hurt, Nathan McKinnon hurt, and there was vast inconsistencies from Brock Nelson and Josh Manson. It was just not even fun watching. And Habs fans were just getting so annoyed and pissed and disappointed that they wanted a whole entire organizational shakeup. So here's the deal. Jared Bednar is coming back for next year. I'm okay with that. I thought they were going to end up firing him, and I understand why. Because you can't go in and be the President's Trophy winner, the most dominant team in the NHL, and then get swept by a team who only won 39 games in the Pacific. It just doesn't happen like that. So I understand everybody getting pissed. But Jared Bednar and what John Tortorella also had expressed this after the series, that Bednar's a really good coach. That's what I'm telling everybody to get him off of your you-know-what. Because he is a good coach. Then this Avalanche team goes on to win a Stanley Cup in 22. And people seem to forget about that. And now we know Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic were like this, okay? They were together in a lot of the different moves because once they got Nazem Kadri, they had gotten a bunch of different moves up from there. But remember, too, like the Casey Middlestad trade didn't really look as hot. Then they go and get Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood after they moved on from Alexander Georgiev. And this is after Darcy Kemper in the 22 season. And they have been trying to figure out goaltending for quite a while, and this was a very dominant goaltending unit. And didn't look so great by the time they got into the Western Conference Final. And Brock Nelson, who they went and acquired, they reacquired Nazem Kadri. They ended up getting a bunch of different really good players. And then not to mention, they go and they recruit Brent Burns because he has never won a Stanley Cup. He's been in it, but had never won it. He's had long years. He was hungry. He was wanting so badly to go and fight for the cup. And it didn't happen. And so there was where, and again, I've said this before, when you watch someone like Joe Sakic in game 2 up and into the stands at Ball Arena and he shakes his head and he's pissed, he's disappointed, and walks out the building, that matters. So Chris McFarland's moving on now, and that's a different change in Colorado because what they've also said, and I quote, that Joe Sakic, from after Chris McFarland's departure to go to Nashville, is he will resume the duties of being the general manager for the foreseeable future until there is a new skipper in the building. So that means Joe Sakic, who also was a part of the 22 Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, is going to be back to being the GM again. And I'm okay with it, but I know some people have their thoughts. They have their opinions on it. But Nashville needs some help. They need consistency. It doesn't feel like that they have it, and I was really surprised because once they got Marchessault and Stamkos and Shea, and then on top of Yusei Saros and Roman Josi and all, I thought this team would have been better. I was expecting this team to be a playoff team, and then yet you move on from Peter Laviolette, who I have my own thoughts about, and then John Hines, like there has to be built consistency in this building. Nashville's been crying for it. Not to mention, I mean, Barry Trotz was even up in this building trying to help this organization. But I think this is a good move. If you saw what Colorado was able to do to getting a lot of these really good players, have a ferocious offense that was consistent, and not to mention the puck distribution, goals, shots on goals, and how that they were aggressively getting to the crease every time. That's what Nashville needs. Like they were once Smashville, and now they're more like Snoozeville. So that's what's been their problem. They've never been an intimidating team since the year they went to the Stanley Cup. Fisher was the captain, and you had PK Subban at one point, and Pekka Rinne. They got to get back to it and maybe be better than ever. But interesting move. I like it, but I also understand it too. So, yeah, new skipper in town. Colorado will definitely miss him. But Joe Sakic back into the building. He's back into the GM duties. I'm sure everybody's going like, oh, yeah, this is going to be cup aspirations next year. It should be. It's a talented roster. You can't underachieve like that. So, good stuff. Appreciate everybody for joining us here up and onto the show. We wrap it up this week. We'll see you guys next week. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the finals. Enjoy the Stanley Cup Final. We'll see you guys in the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, everyone.